Happy Tuesday from Houston, Texas, and welcome to Stellar Parenting. I'm your host, Brandi. I'm an intuitive astrologer, and I also hold a Master of Science degree in psychology with an emphasis in child and adolescent development. And I'm really passionate about helping parents and teachers learn how to combine the magic of the stars with the art of consciously raising children. If you are interested in working with me, please visit my website at brandycon.com. So this week is nothing short of powerful. We've got the equinox, which is like a cosmic reset button calling us back into balance. And at the same time, the sun opposing Neptune is weaving a fog of dreams, illusions, and deep spiritual insight, making it hard to tell what's real and what's imagined. And then Mars is stepping into Scorpio and locking horns with Pluto in Aquarius, bringing intensity, power struggles, and the chance for massive transformation. So let's dive in and break down how to work with this energy and how to avoid getting pulled under by it. But first, ladies and gentlemen, we are diving into the headlines about two companies that have been in the news. And I'm talking about Disney and Target. And you might be wondering what is going on with this energy? Well, I've got the Astro Tea for you, okay? And we are going to connect the dots with the cosmic energy driving these events. So let's start with Target. After 11 years of being the CEO of Target, Brian Cornell stepped down, and he did this at a time when the company was facing plummeting sales and some backlash over rolling back its DEI initiatives. In fact, since that rollback, Target's stock plunged more than 30%, wiping out over $20 billion in value. So, what's really happening here? Well, here's the bigger picture. The power right now isn't sitting at the top with CEOs, it's with the people. Why? Well, because we've been in the energy of Pluto in the sign of Aquarius since November 2024. The last time Pluto traveled through Aquarius was from 1778 through 1798. And during that time, the world saw revolutions erupt across the globe. We had the American Revolution, the French Revolution, the Haitian Revolution. People rose up. They stormed castles and they toppled monarchs. And that energy is repeating itself today. And to make things even more intense, Pluto went out of bounds on August the 29th and will stay there until November 23rd. Now, when a planet is out of bounds, it operates beyond the usual limits of the sun's path. And historically, when Pluto has gone south, out of bounds south in this way, astrologer Rosie Finn has noted that rebellions, revolts, and mass challenges to authority tend to rise up. It's not a good time for tyrants. And Pluto will keep going out of bounds every year until 2035. So, Target CEO resigning and Disney struggles, these are not random events, my friends. They are part of a larger shift. And the cosmic message is clear. When corporations or leaders dismiss people's voices, especially those of marginalized groups, the backlash is swift because the power right now, it lies with the collective, not with the hierarchy. And speaking of Disney, let's turn to the Jimmy Kimmel story. All right. So last week, Disney suspended the show briefly, but the backlash from Hollywood and labor unions and free speech advocates was so strong that they reversed course within days. So the show is back, although some affiliates are still refusing to air it. But what does this show us? Again, Pluto and Aquarius. Authority figures may try to clamp down on speech or control the narrative, but collective voices, whether through boycotts, open letters, or subscriber cancellations, have more influence than ever. And that's because the people are speaking. So here's the takeaway: we are living in a time when old power structures are crumbling. Pluto in Aquarius is reminding us that the future belongs to the collective, not the few at the top. Leaders and corporations that try to ignore, silence, or diminish people's rights will find themselves on shaky ground. And as I've said many times on this show before, ever since Pluto initially went into the sign of Aquarius, the power lies with the people, not with the CEOs, not with the crown, but with us. So please keep that in mind. Now let's jump into our transits for this week. On Monday, September 22nd, we stepped into the autumnal equinox in the northern hemisphere. Now, the equinox is that magical moment when day and night are exactly equal. It's a cosmic pause between the seasons, and it's a natural reminder of balance, reflection, and alignment. And it's the perfect time to check in with yourself, your goals, and your relationships. Astrologically, the sun moved into the sign of Libra, and that's the sign of harmony, partnership, and fairness. And Libra energy invites us to restore balance in our lives, to seek peaceful solutions, and to notice where give and take is working or where it needs some adjustment. It's also a beautiful time for creativity, for beauty, and cultivating connection, both within ourselves and with others. And the equinox isn't just about the outside world. It's an invitation to inner equilibrium as well. So take a moment to reflect on the past season. What do you want to release and what do you want to nurture going forward? So think of it as a cosmic reset. It's a moment to realign with your values, your priorities, and your personal sense of balance. So, whether it's setting intentions or spending time in nature or just pausing to take a breath, the equinox offers a powerful opportunity to step into this next season with clarity, harmony, and focus. So for today, Tuesday, September 23rd, we have the sun at 0 degrees of Libra opposing Neptune at 0 degrees of Aries. So the sun in Libra standing opposite to Neptune in Pisces, this is a transit that really blurs the line between clarity and confusion, and between what's real and what we wish were real. So it can feel really dreamy, inspiring, and deeply spiritual, but also a little bit foggy, uncertain, or even deceptive at times. Okay. So during this transit, the your emotions and imagination will really run strong. And you may feel called towards something bigger than yourself. So that could be spirituality, that could be creativity, or just showing compassion and unconditional love. And at the same time, you might also be wrestling with self doubt or mixed signals or the urge to escape from everyday responsibilities. It's a really beautiful moment for inspiration, but it's not the easiest time for precision. Something that I've noticed with my clients, especially whenever we have Sun opposite Neptune or Sun squaring Neptune, one of the main things that people notice is they feel really fatigued. Their energy feels low, feels like they need a little bit more rest. Okay. So if that's something that you are experiencing, if you've been feeling it today, if you felt it, a little bit yesterday, today, tomorrow, I want you to remember to give yourself some room to breathe and the space to rest if that's what your body is calling for. So, how can we navigate through this transit? How can we use this energy to our advantage? So, the best things that you can do, okay, I want you to slow down and reflect. So, you can spend time meditating or journaling or simply just being still, just being in quiet, just being in the stillness. You can also channel your imagination into art, music, or dance. You really want to let your creativity flow during this time. And it's a great time to engage in spiritual practices, whether that's prayer, visualization exercises, or simply just being in nature. And try to stay grounded with healthy routines. So that could be yoga, that could be deep breathing, or even making sure that your body is getting good nutrition can really help to balance the feeling of haziness that you might be experiencing. What I want you to avoid during this time, don't rush into major decisions, okay? Major decisions, major commitments, or signing contracts. Today is not the best day for it because things might be a little bit fuzzy right now, okay? You might not have the clarity that you feel like you need. Also, let's watch out for escapism. And that can show up as overindulging in substances, any type of substance that could be detrimental, okay? Or distractions like online shopping or scrolling through TikTok, which is one of my biggest distractions. It can also cloud the waters even more. And avoid putting others on pedestals or expecting for other people to be perfect. Because this transit, when the sun is opposing Neptune, remember, clarity is not there. So this transit can really heighten illusions and lead to a sense of disappointment. And don't neglect the basics, what you need to do every day in your life for a sense of well being. Okay. Tending to your health, getting sleep, getting good food, getting exercise, paying the bills, and keeping up with your responsibilities. So, the gift of the sun opposing Neptune is that it can help us to dissolve old illusions and open a doorway to empathy, creativity, and spiritual insight. That's the thing that we have to remember when it comes to astrology. Everything really occurs along a spectrum of energy, okay? So we can take a really difficult transit, such as Sun opposing Neptune, and we can be channeling the energy in a way that's at its lowest potential or at the lower end of the spectrum. What we really want to do when we want to set the intention to channel that energy, to use that energy at its highest level of expression, okay? And to access the magic of Sun opposing Neptune, we really have to stay aware of what's real and what's imagined. What am I making up in my mind? What am I telling myself that's completely unfounded in reality versus what are the facts that I'm dealing with here? So think of this as a time to dream really big, but wait a few days before acting on those dreams. Now, parenting guidance for those of you who are parents with Sun opposing Neptune. So, this transit, like I mentioned before, can make things feel really foggy and confusing and even emotional. And for our children, it can bring extra sensitivity. Remember, children, they tend to be more energetically sensitive many times. Okay. So this is a whole extra layer of sensitivity for the young ones. Okay. It can also bring big imaginations and sometimes blurred boundaries. So we as parents can really help and anchor our children during this time, during this transit, by offering stability and gentle guidance. So here's what you can do as a parent. You can encourage creativity. So children may feel a little dreamy and imaginative right now. Remember, their imaginations are working overtime with Sun opposite Neptune, especially if they have planets or angles around 0 degrees of Aries, okay, and 0 degrees of Libra. And since they may be feeling that dreamy, imaginative energy, we really want to give them outlets for expressing that energy and for channeling that energy, like drawing or music, playing music, storytelling, or dancing. Also, we can help our children feel more grounded with a strong sense of routine. So, we want to keep bedtime, mealtime, and daily rhythms steady so that our children have a clear sense of structure. And we as parents, we want to model healthy boundaries and show our children that it's okay to say no. And it's okay for them to protect their space. And they may be prone to really being influenced by others at this time. We really want to make sure we're listening with empathy because children may express their worries, their fears, or their fantasies that don't fully make sense. Okay. But we as parents can still validate their feelings, even if the story is unclear. And we want to teach discernment very gently. So if your child is prone to exaggeration or confusion, we can help them separate fact from imagination without making them feel ashamed. Let's offer spiritual and calming practices like breathing games, mindfulness exercises, or nature walks. And that can really soothe the heightened emotions. And stay patient. Your child might be more forgetful, more distracted, or more dreamy. Okay. And let's meet this with a sense of understanding rather than frustration. So, what we don't want to do, parents, we don't want to overload our children with new information during this time, okay? Because they may struggle to focus or process the information clearly. So, let's keep instructions simple and try not to overpromise because Neptune can amplify disappointment if reality doesn't match fantasy. And let's set realistic expectations and don't ignore your own boundaries. Children will pick up on your energy. So, modeling healthy self care will really help your child to feel safe. So, this is an absolutely beautiful time to nurture your child's imagination while teaching them the difference between dreams and reality in a loving way. Now, let's talk about one of the most powerful and transformative astrological alignments of this month. Okay. And that's going to be Mars in Scorpio squaring Pluto and the sign of Aquarius. And that will be exact on September 24th, Wednesday, September 24th, tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. This energy, the energy with this transit is not light or fluffy. Okay. It's really deep, it's intense, and it demands our attention. Mars is the planet of drive, willpower, and action. Mars shows how you assert yourself and shows what motivates you, what inspires you. So now we're going to have Mars squaring Pluto. And when I'm saying squaring, that's an aspect with tension, where there's tension between the two planets. Pluto is the planet of what? Power, transformation, and the deeper forces that shape our lives. So and that's both individually and collectively. Pluto in Aquarius represents massive changes in how we structure society, how we relate to technology, communities, and even the future itself. So when these two planets are squaring each other, we often see clashes of will, struggles for control, or the surfacing of deep emotional material that we can no longer suppress. We can't hide it anymore. So, what does this feel like? Well, imagine a pressure cooker. Mars and Scorpio is building heat, right? And Pluto in Aquarius is turning up the pressure and the lid is rattling, right? Whatever has been buried, and that can be resentment, it can be fear, it can be suppressed anger, or just unhealthy and dysfunctional patterns. It may try to explode to the surface. And this can show up as arguments, can show up as power struggles. It can show up in sudden conflicts where nobody absolutely wants to back down. And it can also feel internal. So you may feel this on a personal level, like you are wrestling with your own shadows or confronting parts of yourself that you've been trying to avoid. But here's the thing I want you to remember with this transit: it is not here to destroy you, it is here to transform you. Mars and Pluto together offer extraordinary strength, focus, and willpower. And if you use this energy consciously, you can take the raw, volatile material of anger and fear and intensity and refine it into courage and healing and transformation. So, how do you work with this energy? Here's what I want you to do. First, give your body an outlet, okay? Mars and Pluto together can create huge amounts of physical tension. So I want you to move, whether that's through exercise or dancing or breath work, or even a deep cleaning project around your home. And you can use this transit also for deep inner work. So journal, meditate, sit with your feelings, and ask yourself, where am I feeling disempowered? Where am I still holding resentment? What am I ready to release? Also, you can practice conscious boundaries. So if someone pushes your buttons, you don't need to engage in a power struggle, okay? Instead, step back. I want you to breathe and choose how you want to respond. And finally, focus this intensity on something meaningful, okay? Something that has a lot of purpose for you. Mars square Pluto gives incredible stamina for projects that require endurance, that require strategy and courage. So use it to build rather than to destroy. Here's what I want you to avoid: don't lash out from anger or fear, because words spoken in the heat of this transit can cut deeply and they may be hard to take back. And let's not manipulate or try to control other people. Power games are especially toxic right now and they tend to backfire, okay? Don't bottle everything up either, okay? Suppression can lead to explosions later. Okay, so find safe ways to let the energy move through your body. And finally, don't make irreversible decisions when you're triggered. Step back, wait, and let the clarity return before you act. If you handle this transit consciously, it's like stepping into your own personal forge, okay? Yes, the fire is intense, but it's refining you. Mars in Scorpio square Pluto in Aquarius is a call to own your power. And it's not by dominating or controlling other people, but by transforming yourself from the inside out. For those of you who are parents, okay? It's an intense transit. Kids feel these undercurrents just as much as adults, if not more, because they don't yet have the tools to process all of this energy. So during this period, your children may show stronger emotions than usual, more defiance. There may be more power struggles between you guys, okay? They might want to test your boundaries. They might want to push back against your authority, or they may seem unusually moody. This isn't just bad behavior, it's their way of working through the same deep energy that we're all feeling. So here's what I want you to do, parents: provide healthy outlets for intensity, encourage physical activity through sports, dance, playing outside, or even something like clay modeling or painting, just to let the energy move. Hold firm but compassionate boundaries. So your children may push harder right now, but they may actually feel safer when the limits are clear and consistent. And let's encourage emotional honesty, okay? Let your children express their anger, sadness, or their frustration in words. And you can say, I see you're upset. Let's talk about it. This validates their feelings without condoning harmful behavior. And sometimes children just need to feel heard. So listen without judgment, and that can help them to release tension. What I want you to avoid, parents, let's not escalate. If your child is angry or defiant, meeting them with more intensity usually makes things worse. So step back and lower your tone. And let's not shame or belittle, because harsh words in this energy can cut deeply and linger. And don't ignore the signs. So if your child is withdrawing or they're isolating or acting out more than usual, they may be struggling with big feelings and emotions that they don't know how to name. And let's try not to control everything. This transit highlights power dynamics, and micromanaging your child during this time will only increase resistance. So during Mars square Pluto, children need safe containers for their big energy and emotions. And your role is not to extinguish their fire, it's to guide it so that that intensity becomes strength and not destruction. So those are the transits for this week. I want you to set your intentions for how you want to use this energy constructively. And as I always like to remind you each week, the stars may guide us, but we hold the power to shape our destiny. So keep shining your light bright. Have a wonderful week, and I'll see you here again next week.